Okay, we'll start our Blount County Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. First thing, I need each of you to turn your cell phones off, and that includes those of us up here. The second thing we're going to cover is the evacuation procedure.
In the event of an emergency evacuation, an alarm will sound. Everyone should exit the building by way of the nearest stairwell in a safe and effective manner. If the nearest stairwell is blocked by smoke, use the other stairwell. Do not use the elevator. Once you've reached the main floor, follow the exit signs to exit the building and quickly proceed away from the building. Please be mindful of others evacuating and of emergency vehicles.
Next item is roll call.
Larry?
Here.
Bruce? Joe?
Here.
Stanley? Brian?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. The next item is the approval of last month's meeting minutes. Do any of you have any changes that you want to make to the minutes that you have been presented?
Move to accept.
Have a motion to accept from Brian.
Second.
Second, Joe. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. So, the process, if you haven't been here before, is that each item on the agenda, Thomas will give a very brief summary, and then we'll ask anyone who is in favor of that request to come forward, come to the podium, give us your name, and then we'll give an opportunity for those that may be opposed to this request, and they'll be given a chance to come up. And then the group here will have an open discussion between ourselves and between those that are in favor and those that are opposed. So it'd be an open dialogue between us. So Thomas, you want to give us a very brief summary of the first item on the agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The request before you tonight is a special exception request for a cellular telecommunications antenna located at 7927 Carnes Road in Townsend. That's map 96, parcel 041.00. I also just want to point out briefly, as far as staff tonight, you, of course, have myself, and I also want to acknowledge the County Highway Superintendent is present, Jeff Hedrick, County Attorney, Craig Garrett, and in this case on cellular projects, the county does, we seek outside consultant for that, and I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Larry Perry is here tonight too. So when we get to the question and answer portion, we have all these folks available tonight. So that said, just a very brief summary. The applicant is Verizon Wireless. They have submitted an application for a cellular monopole tower on the subject property. The total property is about 15.2 acres. It's zoned R1, which is Rural District 1. Pursuant to our zoning regulations, wireless telecom facilities such as this are allowed in all districts subject to the approval of a special exception. And those relevant sections of our regulations are section 7.4 and 11.5. Those are included in my write-up here. And as I mentioned before, the project was forwarded to Larry Perry for review, and his full report is attached, and that's what I have. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone here in favor of this request? Okay, come forward. Give us your name, please.
Good evening. My name is Joey Marcus. I'm an attorney here on behalf of the law firm Baker Donaldson, representing Verizon Wireless. Also with me tonight is Mr. Bill Callahan, an RF engineer for Verizon Wireless. And I thank you for taking the time to hear our request this evening. Our request is to construct a 199-foot monopole tower. Monopole towers are towers that are constructed on a pier foundation. They do not use guy wires of any sort. This tower, being at 199 feet on proposed, will not required to be lighted by the FAA. The FAA requires towers 200 feet and above to be required, so this tower will not be lighted. We are proposing to construct a tower here with Verizon will be the first tenant located on this tower and will own the tower, and we'll have space for 3 additional carriers to co-locate on our tower as well, so providing space for growth in this part of Blount County and the Townsend area. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about, and I passed out to you some information your staff has with you, just showing some brief statistics about cell tower. Mr. Callahan will cover the reasons why we're seeking this request from a radio frequency standpoint. But as you can see in the data I've provided you, just the overall increase of data and smartphone usage by the population, both here in Tennessee and across the country, the growth has been very significant. Almost 35 times the volume has increased since 2010. My children are in their late teens, early 20s. You all may have children or grandchildren. This generation does not use this telephone as we did. They text, they stream movies and videos pretty much constantly. So nowadays, so much not necessarily phone calls, but it's data traffic and the need for capacity. Towers, and I'll let Mr. Callahan cover more about what the need for this particular site is that's here. One other item that I have for you there, that blue paper that you have there in your hand, sir, talks about almost 80% of 911 calls are made by mobile phones now. So it's that number is increasing every year. When Mr. Callahan gets done, I'll go through the particular items of your zoning ordinance, but I will emphasize to you on the front end that we fully comply with your zoning regulations as to the bulk regulations. So, Mr. Callahan, I'll turn it over to you to.
How tall did you say this tower was?
199 feet, sir.
199, and if you go one more foot further, you need a light.
Well, we would need lights at 200 and above. That 199 includes the lighting rod, which is upon it. So the tower itself is at 195 with a 4-foot lighting rod.
Okay, thank you.
Does everybody have a copy of this presentation? The proposed site? Okay. We need it to be because of capacity. It's not really for coverage. If you imagine, the way I explain it sometimes, if you imagine a dice.
Speak up, please.
Okay, if you imagine a dice with 4 dots at each of the 4 corners as existing cell sites, and things get you get a lot of traffic, grows and grows in the middle, then you got to make it a 5 spot on a dice. You got to add something. It doesn't really increase coverage. It strengthens it in the immediate area, but it's for capacity because the cell site can only carry so much traffic. And that's why we need to build this Lazydays site, its name. The serving sector, on the next slide that shows the best server coverage, covers Townsend and a whole lot more. It's on a pretty big hilltop, so it covers a lot of turf. And Townsend, if we could get something right in the area of Townsend, that would offload it quite a bit and improve capacity and throughput speeds. One of the effects of running out of capacity is that the throughput goes down. Things get slower and slower, and sometimes you block. You can't get on when you want to. So that's why you need extra capacity. And there's a couple slides that show traffic volume. It's pretty high in Townsend and all around where that cell covers. But the next slide shows throughput speeds, and that's one of the symptoms we see when we need to add capacity. You can tell by the colors, there's a scale on there that shows it's getting pretty congested, especially in the Townsend area. It shows up in the weaker coverage areas first, and Townsend is kind of weaker coverage. It's pretty far from the site called Townsend. I think that was wishful thinking, whoever named that site. It's not in the town, whereas Lazydays will be, directly covering that town. And then I tried to show there's other towers around. If you want to flip to the very last, we show our cell site inventory in Blount County. And we have 28 existing sites. And if you look down the third column from the left, it tells who owns it. We co-locate as much as we can. We don't build towers frivolously. We're on 4 of those towers that we own, and the other 24 are owned by other people. We rent them if we can. In this case, we can't. They're just not in the right location. It's, you know, y'all live here, there's a lot of hills and things, and it blocks signal. RF signal does not go through hills or dirt. So we've had to build something, in this instance, right to cover the town of Townsend. And that's pretty much it.
Explain to them the difference if we're
Oh, okay. Well, all right. If we were to try, there's several slides here, and I'll go ahead and speak to them then. The first slide shows our current coverage, and in the Townsend area, it's kind of weak, very weak, as a matter of fact. And then I showed the coverage where the proposed location is, this raw land, the tower that we want to build. Then I modeled coverage from, the next one is a US Cellular tower.
Which slide are you on now?
Okay, let me take you through it. Let's see, back up. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead. Slide 6 is your current coverage.
6.
Slide 6 is current coverage, okay? Right. That's what we have today. And over in the bottom right, it shows signal strengths, and in the middle there, you can make out the town of Townsend, the name. And it's pretty low coverage. It's getting down to around neg 95, neg 100 decibels per milliwatt, reference to milliwatts. dBm, we call it. The next slide shows the proposed coverage for this Lazydays location. You can see it's a lot firmer. The coverage is a lot stronger. In slide 8, I modeled coverage from the US Cellular tower, and that is based on the heights available on that tower, what we can get if we were going to go on that tower. And it just does not really strengthen coverage in the town of Townsend itself. It wouldn't really help improve the throughput at all. And then we have an SBA owns a tower, and that's slide 9. I showed coverage modeled from there. It's only pretty low antenna center lines available on there, and it looks like it's pretty terrain blocked from covering the town of Townsend. So that's the worst of the 3. But really, the only one that's really going to improve throughput speeds is the raw land, you know, the proposed build.
Where you have
Lazydays.
Is
Somebody
that where
named
the
it.
tower's
Wasn't me,
going?
okay? I didn't initially design it, but
is
that's.
that where the tower's going?
Beg your pardon? Yes, sir.
Okay, and then the block where it says Townsend, where is that physically as you're driving up 321?
The town?
On this map, you're showing Townsend.
Yes.
Where is that on 321?
On Route 21, it's just about where the letters are. The coverage kind of covers it up, but if we flip back,
Tell me where, if I'm driving through there, where am I on 321?
what mile marker, or I'm not,
Some store or something.
oh.
What I'm trying to understand is, Lazydays, I understand where the sign is and where that is.
This is gonna be right there at Campground Church.
This is Campground Church,
That's gonna be right there at Campground Church.
where the tower's going or where this sign is?
Where this existing is, this new one's gonna be up the road, because it went past Webb Road, but you didn't get to where.
That's where Myers Road.
So you have to go to Wares Valley and come back.
Mr. Chairman, it's about just due north of the visitor center.
Okay,
It give you some idea.
that's what I was trying,
Yes,
a
sir.
landmark.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I was going to give you a Myers Road. It's on the north side of the river.
And we will be on the higher elevation of that property, so you've got the riverbank below. We'll be up on the back side of that.
I understand where you're proposing to put it. I've been there. What I didn't understand is you're showing this to be far away from that.
Oh, now
And I
that-
didn't understand where in Townsend that point is.
Where'd this?
The Townsend site?
This will be.
Oh, my goodness.
So this is the, as you're
Actual site.
heading back toward, heading back here, as you're coming out of, down through, that tower that's up on the hilltop, that's there, I think there's 4 different antennas sitting up right on the peak. I actually took a picture of it on my phone, but if you're familiar, just on the south side of the highway, it's up right on the ridge itself. That's the tower that's depicted, that you pointed to, sir, in that bottom left area. I'm still this.
Okay.
So the area you inquired, that's that particular site today.
That's not showing downtown Townsend, that's showing another tower.
That shows the other towers, yes, sir. So these reference marks are if, in the event, if Verizon were to co-locate on these existing towers, this
Okay.
cellular tower there.
Okay.
I was trying to show the closest towers that alternate that we're not on.
Okay.
Can't really solve the
Okay.
capacity problem. I'm done.
Which towers are currently located?
In Townsend?
Right.
The one we're currently on, we call it Townsend, but it's not really in the town. And then there's a US Cellular tower that's kind of north and west of the town, about a mile. There's nothing directly.
Well, there's one that looks like a tree, used to be.
Yes, sir. And that's the one Verizon's currently
This one.
on that hilltop there.
That's the tree?
That's right there beside the campground church.
Oh, well.
Just past.
Why didn't you say that?
That's the one we're on. That's the one we're on. We need another location. Exactly. I mean, it covers Townsend, but the throughput speeds are really, really slow. We're staying on it too. Yes, sir. We just need another one.
Is that one full?
Beg pardon?
Is the one Stanley's talking about, is it full? How many carriers do you have on
The
it?
one
The one that we're currently on.
we're currently on? I don't know if it's full, but putting more antennas on that same location wouldn't help us if that's. Mostly it's line of sight. You get diffraction from other buildings, but basically it's line of sight.
Does it go all the way to Wildwood and gets that tower?
I didn't propagate just the site itself of Townsend. Did you have that plot?
Yes.
I mean, it probably goes pretty far. It hits several hilltops around here, but it wouldn't get into the valleys so much. Excuse me.
Matt, sir.
That's just interesting, that wall, on this wall, it doesn't show any coverage at all, which is right.
I don't think we have very good coverage in Wallen.
Yeah, like I was talking about, the current tower that serves this area, there's basically 3 segments, so 3 pieces of pie. So this yellow is what currently serves the area of downtown Townsend. You can see the main strip. But to answer your question,
You just pointed to the new tower.
Get all the way to create gaps, man. Get to Spencerville and Russellville.
That particular slide. Mr. Chairman, that's the page that I've got from Mr. Chairman, this is the change. If you'll turn to this page here, this is the overall.
Okay, thank you.
Bill, if you'll come back.
Any other questions for these guys?
If I may have, Mr. Kelly.
Capacity versus coverage. Yeah, I guess it's the difference between coverage and capacity, because we do have some coverage, you know. No, it's not coverage, it's capacity. The problem is that these smartphones, they use so much data. I mean, there's kids doing uploads and downloads and watching videos and you name it, and it's really high data. It's a lot of volume.
When you go back on that tower that looks like a tree and upgrade it to have more capacity, or is this being real to take over part of it?
We've done it. We do trending of the traffic, the cell traffic. It just grows and grows and grows. But we show trending on our cell sites, and then if we add another carrier, another frequency to it, the capacity goes down, but it still keeps ramping up. And sooner or later, you're going to hit that line where it's just.
It's on growing, we need to put another tower in there.
That's the deal. It's like I was explaining about, if you imagine a dice with 4 dots on it and things start loading up in the middle, you got to make a 5 dot sooner or later. You got to put something else in there because you've added all the frequency bands that you can.
That again on capacity. Whatever tower Blount is the town. Does it have a real high capacity too?
Well, they're all pretty much going to have about the same amount of capacity. As some of them cover more area than others. And I think the Townsend site that covers the town of Townsend is not in Townsend. It's a couple miles away, but it covers probably 50 square miles. And so everybody's talking and uploading and downloading. We just got to put something in to help it out. It's run out of gas.
Those antennas, it's sort of a bucket. It can only handle X amount of data at any one time. So if you've ever been to the Tennessee game and you tried to send something and you got 4 bars, so you're good signal,
You have
but
signal.
it won't go. That's a capacity issue. So if you've ever experienced that at a very crowded place, that is a capacity issue is what you're saying. So what Mr. Callahan's trying to I guess, illustrate is like that tower that's existing only handles so much traffic at one time. So by providing a second tower would split the load between them to allow growth across the whole network.
But that tree tower
Yes, sir.
has been there 10 years?
Sure.
You can't put today's technology in there and increase the capacity of that tower?
We've been doing that. We're implementing in 4G. We have 4G technology on that tower now. And the first step was to do two-way transmit. That's with antennas, 2 antennas transmitting from the same site at the same time. Now we're implementing 4-way transmit, which is we're doubling not the number of antennas, but the number of elements inside of the antennas. Anyway, theoretically, it doubles your capacity. So we're doing that. We're adding more frequencies to it, but we trend these things, and we know when it's going to run out of gas, and this thing is already starting to run out of capacity. So we know when we got to build another cell site. I mean, we trend these things, and we start typically 2 to 3 years in advance. We know when we're going to need another tower, because we watch data traffic on all the sectors.
Do you have today's technology on the tree tower?
We have two-way transmit. I think four-way transmit is a project that's going through real estate right now to be put on there. It should be put on there probably sometime this year. We're doing so many, I can't, you know, I have like 500 sites in my area that I take care of, and I don't know exactly which ones have got the antenna changes to put four-way in or not, but we've got 500 projects going, and they'll all be done this year. So if it's not done this year, I mean, not done now, it'll be done in the next 8 months.
So the answer is,
Yes,
today
or
you don't have
I don't know for
technology,
sure.
but within 8 months you will have.
Within 8 months, if it's not there already, we've.
Will it be a red dot like that one?
It's not going to increase the coverage or the power or anything else. It just adds more capacity to the site.
Well, now what the red area means, more capacity?
That's just coverage, signal strength. It doesn't improve or increase the signal strength. It just, I'm not sure how to explain it. It's a bigger bucket to carry more data, you know, but that bucket's in the same place. It's a deeper bucket maybe. That's probably a better way to say it.
Elevation above sea level. The 199 on the tower you're proposing.
The height.
How does that compare to the tree tower? Feet above sea level.
The tree tower, I'll tell you exactly how tall it is. Hang on one second. It's on the last slide, and the site name is Townsend, the tree tower. It is 140 feet, 150 feet. The second column from the right tells you the overall height, 150 feet. Our antenna is 10 feet down. So we're not top dog. We're probably, somebody else is, and we're right under them.
150 feet from the ground.
150 feet's to the tip of that tree.
What I'm trying to
And
get to-
140 feet's where our antennas are. They're 10 feet down.
What I'm trying to get to is where you're proposing it, there's a ridge behind 3 cabins. Where you're going, you drive down the river, there's 3 cabins, and that's where the Thomas's sign is, and behind that, there's a ridge.
Uh-huh.
You're gonna put it on that ridge.
The new Townsend, you mean the Lazydays site? We're not putting it on the ridge, it's down below the ridge, from what I can tell.
You're not putting it on the ridge right behind the houses?
It's on a hillside top, right? Is that the ridge?
Yes.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
yeah.
I can get you your question, and your question is exactly, all right, if the elevation of the treetop tower is 1,400 feet above sea level, ours is X. If you'll permit me, I can get that information for you. I've got my laptop in the car, I can pull
Well,
up.
that's okay. I'll just, if you just,
It's gonna be lower than the treetop tower.
that's my point.
I mean, yeah, I can't say that with 100%. Actually, my gut feeling it is by visiting site. I believe it to be lower, but I can prove it with USGS sheets. I'm certainly pull them up for you.
But the tree tower is going to be higher than the new tower you're putting in, elevation-wise.
Total elevation.
I believe
yes, sir.
so.
Okay, but you're saying you're not going to put it on that ridge behind those cabins?
No, sir. It'll be up on the. If you've got our site plan.
I'm remembering what I saw when I got there.
Well, it may help. I don't know if staff's provided you a copy of our survey. This will be on page 2 of the survey. So if you've looked at any aerial photographs of that page 2 of the survey done by the Point Land Surveying, it'll be this page.
Okay?
Yes, sir. So if you're familiar with that site, that large tree line that you see there is noted as that corner of that property right here. So that large tree line that lines that property.
Now you're talking about the ridge.
Which will be that ridge line right there.
Okay,
So that property has a pond on it here.
okay.
The drive goes up the hillside. The change in topography appears to be from 1137 above sea level to the site itself is sitting at 1147 roughly, so about 10 feet of topo change. So it'll be up on that I hate to use the word plateau, but the flatter portion of that ridge line, yes, sir.
So it will be on top of the ridge line.
Yes, sir. So to give you some
That's the
idea down
question.
below,
That's my question. As you look at that, and you go to the driveway, to the right of there, it looks like there's an old road bed that goes up the ridge. Is that how you're gonna get up there?
that is, the driveway itself comes in off
on the
of
side.
the very east side of that property.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir, off of Carnes Road. So up that sideway behind the gentleman's barn, which is
Yeah.
located here, and then up that,
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
up the hill.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
How do you determine the need house in that city? That one target period,
Those are trees.
is it all houses in target, or campgrounds, or what? Why are you putting it?
Well, we'll look at several things. If you go back to slide, let me make sure I got the right one. Slide 4 and slide 5. And slide 3, okay. Let's start with slide 3. That's the serving sector, the yellow one. That's on the current tree site, and that yellow represents what that particular sector, there's 3 sectors, it goes in 3 directions, just like a Y, okay? But the Y that's pointing in Townsend's direction is the yellow one. That's how much that particular sector covers. Okay, and the next slide shows kilobytes. That's just data volume, sheer data volume in a 24-hour period. Last Friday is what I pulled.
But is the data volume mainly coming from campgrounds?
Come from phones. Yeah, well, a lot of it is coming just the little, everywhere you see a red dot, that's the highest level. There's a scale over on the right-hand side. Think of blue as cool and red as hot, okay?
More from a geographic standpoint.
Oh, I don't know, it doesn't show up here, I'm not quite sure. It's just the Townsend area.
Campground one there, would you have data usage demand?
I don't know where the campground is on here.
It's in the center. I would,
I'm thinking residential.
Sure.
Would you even need it? Would you even need a tower with a campground?
well, I would submit to you, we would, sir, ultimately, because think too, it's also not just that, the traffic that uses the highway.
There's pass-through traffic.
Yes, sir. But to give you some idea, one of the charts we gave you is the growth of data between 2014 and 2016. If you can see that, it is almost eightfold in 2 years. And most phones that, if it's not a flip phone, if it's got a large screen on it, that's a smartphone. And that's typically that uses data constantly.
Well, again, forgive me.
Sure.
Hide that wall. Hide that where it's at.
Oh, that's coverage.
How does the street?
Well, strength is going to affect data speed. Okay? So where you see blue, it's going to be the weakest signal strength.
Okay.
And you're going to have the slowest data speeds at the furthest away from the cell site.
But you got
You're
to
right up
have,
next to it, you're going to scream.
you got to balance those. You got to balance those signals.
Well, they're really line of sight. And you see the parts where it travels a while and it gets dark blue, those are valleys where the coverage drops out totally. That's just those are deep spots. There's a big problem. It's like you at the top of that ridge.
You wouldn't have that. It doesn't mean it's not flowing through there.
You have days where it can slow. Here,
Like a
you
wall.
walk, see this way? There's not time to see it.
It's like a wall.
Wall, yeah.
How do you determine it? Well, I think
Everything is made for the same wall. I don't know. I didn't put that in this slide, so I but the blue is the strength you got. Darker blue, okay? It's going to be
That's going to be in motion. if we read it, they won't put one in.
If you put a big tower here, then signal coming in, a big tower in the switch.
When you say a water pump, imagine this is a water pump, and that's a water pump, and that's a water pump. This is coming up out of the ground. But most of your water right here, as it spreads, you've got less and less water when you're out here in the dark blue areas, until you've got nothing.
But it'll come out here, it's going to clear.
It's coming from top to south, yes.
Well, Stanley, if you make a motion to accept this, you can put the requirement that they're going to put a tower in Wallen.
Oh, I don't like motion. This is all my education. Every time we can be just like this, we have to learn this.
Okay, all right, thanks, guys. Any more questions for these two? Yes, sure.
Given what you were talking about, these areas where we have poor coverage, no coverage, what can be done in order to improve coverage in those areas? Without
Come on back over here.
saturating those areas with power? Or is that going on?
Generally, if there's no coverage, it's going to take a tower. I can speak to what's going on in Nashville. They're getting to the point, because it's growing so fast, that they're building a lot of what they call small cells. And those are, they could be on a street light, really low heights, 10, 15, 20 feet, maybe 30 if they're on a rooftop. But they don't cover more than a square block. But they've got so much capacity so much traffic, so many people using phones, like on Lower Broadway and these tourist areas. They have to do small cells so that it only covers a block, and then you do another block, you got another cell site, basically. We're not there yet, out here. It's going to be taller towers,
Okay, I was just thinking about one of those areas.
As you get more to the core cities, they get smaller and smaller too. When we do tower heights, usually if it's a rural area, it's going to be a pretty tall tower. You're covering a lot. There's cows and there's people, but there's just a whole lot of area that you got to cover. And as you get closer and closer to cities, they'll actually interfere with each other if you've got too many too close together. So you bring the heights down so they don't cover quite as much. But that's as you get closer to the density, population density.
Mr. Chairman, if I could add, I don't know, and I heard you talk about procedure, I don't know after these folks speak if I have an opportunity for rebuttal at all. I just, for purposes, but I do want to emphasize just going through, sort of separating the technical portions to the legal aspects of your zoning ordinance. Thanks, Bill. Yes, sir. This particular request meets all the requirements of Blount County's zoning ordinance as to setbacks, landscaping. We are proposing to landscape the site, as you saw in the plans that we've submitted around that tower site, to screen from view adjoining properties of the tower compound equipment area that's on the bottom there. Typically, it'll be an 8-foot type fence, chain link. We can do a privacy fence if that's something that this board feels is necessary to screen that. We are installing landscaping around the entire lease site on 3 sides. Obviously, one side will need access into the site. And those particular trees that are proposed to be planted there are Leland cypress. So if you're familiar with Leland cypress trees, generally start out 6 feet. They grow very quickly and spread very quickly as well. But I emphasize, at least for the purposes of the legal aspects, that we do meet all your requirements. And just one other item that I showed you there, the amount of mobile data usage since 2010 has increased 35-fold. So this is, as Mr. Callahan testified to, is a capacity issue needed to handle the data traffic in this particular area. So I'm here, obviously, with any questions, and I didn't know if I'm able to address anything brought up on rebuttal. Thank you. Cheers. Well, those are all the towers for Verizon, which Verizon's located on. So these towers are all the inventory that Verizon has in Blount County. Yeah, Verizon owned, yes, sir. Verizon will be the owner of this tower. Yeah, to my understanding, yes, sir, that's correct. The others would be co-locations of which we've located on other tower builders, American Tower, very. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else here would like to speak in favor of this?
Yes, sir, about it, I got a couple of questions.
You want to, okay. You're in favor or you're opposed to it?
Careful there, yeah. Property adjoining where it'll be going in.
Your name?
Jerry Godfrey. Myself and my parents own property next to the Carnes property. And my question is, the access and utility support this, when they were there in December, January to do for a test site, they had the wrong information on how to access this site. And I just want to make sure they're going across the Carnes property and not across other property. As far as the tower, I think it actually would be good because I have no cell service. People who live in Townsend come the weekend, it nosedives. And as far as effect, will be the closest effect as far as visually and seeing the tower. It's probably 50 yards from my parents' house. And they have no problem with it going in. But their question is, how is it going to be powered and how are they going to get to it?
Okay.
Thank you.
You want to address that now?
Yes, sir. And I'll be happy to share with this gentleman the survey, which we read. The access to the property will come off of Carnes Road. This will be on the far eastern property boundary of Mr. Carnes' property, adjacent to Mr. and Mrs. Rogers' property. And I'm happy to show.
Okay, my question is, when they first came in, they were trying to access on the property side. It was actually Mr. Guppy's property was where they were told to access. It's not across my property.
2 parcels over around. Yes, sir.
Correct.
Yes, sir. But no, sir. And I'm happy to provide you this. This is the a copy.
I grew up there, so I know
Okay.
what it is. So that is how they are going to access it.
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And the power will be through that same utility easement that runs concurrent with that. Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyone else here in favor of this proposal? Anyone here opposed to this proposal? Okay.
Thank you. My name is Mike Polak. My wife and I, Barbara Polak, we own the piece of property adjacent to the Carnes property, and we are currently building a house there. And we found out about this particular planning meeting on yesterday. I saw the sign on Mr. Carnes' property, but we were not notified. There is no sign on my property that said anything about this meeting occurring. So from yesterday to today, we've been looking through all the paperwork which Mr. Lloyd was, provided us. But anyway, let me go back and start here. That we purchased this 30 acres, okay, which used to belong to Dr. Burns. We purchased 30 acres of his farm, 100-acre farm, in 2015 with the intent of building a house there for our retirement. It's a beautiful view of the Smoky Mountains. It was good, still is a beautiful view, but we didn't know there was going to be any cell tower, obviously. But would you pay, an arm and a leg for a house and 30 acres if you know you're going to have a cell tower to look through? Probably not. So in the fall of 2017, and I'm bringing up a little of this background because some of the information that's been provided to you is not accurate. In the fall of 2017, we explored the possibility of bringing power in from a corner of Mr. Coatney's property, which is adjacent to mine, and Mr. Carnes' property, and my property. There's 3 of us meet right there. And I can show you the plat now if you like, or I can show it to you later. But we were going to jump power from one property to my property, and Mr. Carnes wanted to jump power off of my pole once it got on my property, with the intent of possibly expanding his cabins or building a house up there where the current site is for the antenna. So Mr. Carnes knew we were going to build a house there, but what's in this package does not reflect that. All right. So, in fact, we had an agreement that I would cut down a tree on his property because it was in the way of the power. I did cut down the tree, and then the other party decided not to let the power come through, so it was wasted effort on my part. This proposed cell tower is directly in our line of sight from our house, which is under construction now. I mean, it's totally framed in. I'll show you pictures of that too, and the Smoky Mountains. There are adverse impacts from a health standpoint, which has been proven in the past, and also from a cost of, our property. Some words up to some estimates of 20% decrease in property value because of this, of a cell tower being there. And we've read, the information regarding, damage to your body from the radiation. That particular antenna array, of which Verizon's saying 1, but 4 total sometime in the future, is almost at my eyesight, okay, from where I'm sitting, And I'm not quite sure, I'll go back to a question you guys asked in a minute, but their property is their location is going to be 216 feet from the base of the property to my property line. And my property line to my house is another 350 feet estimated. So we only have 560 feet, line of sight between that array and my house. Okay. Now, we have reviewed the zoning application request, the consultant summary, and the memorandum of the County Board of Zoning and Appeals. And we have some questions concerning the consultant's report, which I believe you all have. Discussion item number 3 states that the nature of uses on adjacent or nearby properties, the immediate surrounding property is as rural open fields, although there is a church to the east of the site. We have a house there. I mean, it's been under construction since January. We put a lot of infrastructure in last fall, a large driveway and 5 power poles and power under the ground. So I don't know how they came about that there's rolling fields over there if they came and did a site survey. There's a house there. Says discussion item number 8, availability of suitable existing towers. And based on the alternate site attachment, there are several other towers which you all have discussed too. And most certainly for us is the AT&T tower, the one that looks like a tree that's, across, almost directly across and higher than what this tower is going to be. And we're curious if they have looked at, attaching. I couldn't hear everything they were saying, if they were going to attach an array to that or not, or if they investigated that. Another item, discussion item 8, the height is necessary to penetrate the area around the site and provide signal coverage as required within a roughly 1 mile radius of the site. Well, what's 1 mile radius going to do for Townsend? I mean, Townsend's like 4 or 5.5 miles long, right? I mean, that's what the loop is. I'm not sure, are we building this tower for the people of the people of Townsend, or for the campers, or what? I'm not sure. In discussion item number 9 for need, In analyzing the application signal coverage for the area and based upon my personal signature measurements and analysis, the applicant, Verizon, has shown the need for the site as the signal levels in this part of the county are very low. The population density is very low in the immediate area. Well, in the documents that we've reviewed, there is no documentation of the actual Verizon coverage. So what you all were looking at, I haven't had a chance to look at. And again, it's only been 1 day since we've been able to do this. Summary item number 4 says the surrounding area is residential R1 zone. The structure should have no impact on adjacent land uses, as most of the adjacent land is open field and wooded lots. That is not true. I mean, there is a house there. The house got under construction at the beginning of this year. And as I stated earlier, Mr. Carnes knew we were going to build a house there. And summary item number 5, the ordinance encourages multiple use structures in the application of by Verizon Wireless, herein provides for other uses of the facility. So if this is the same regulation for this one, if it was the same regulation for the AT&T tower, we should be putting the arrays on the AT&T tower. Plus there's another tower, monopole at the end of Townsend, just about where they're building or doing the new covered bridge project. So I don't know what, we don't know what's been explored because we haven't seen their research. The requested site will have little, this is summary item number 9, will have little impact on the community involved when compared with the benefits to be derived from the advanced service offered by the applicant. We're not sure how the community impact has been determined. There's no documentation, anything we read. I mean, this particular, I'll show you a picture of this too, but this particular tower is directly across from the visitor center, and it's probably going to have a good 150 feet above the tree line, okay, forever, because the trees don't grow that fast. And I think you all know Townsend is a fairly small town with only 448 residents. So what are we trying to provide here? For the town, or for the campers, or what? The applicant has made a showing as required by Article 7.4, paragraph D of the county ordinance, showing the need for the tower in order to meet federal coverage. Well, if the AT&T follows, again, if they follow the same regulations, why can't we tap onto the AT&T tower or this other tower to provide this coverage? Summary item number 12, the nature of the development in the surrounding area is not such as to pose a potential hazard to the proposed tower or to create an undesirable environment for the proposed tower. This isn't true because the cellular antenna will create an undesirable environment for us for sure. It will negatively impact our view of the mountains as well as other people's view of the foothills from the visitor center or any other part of Townsend. And it will have a negative impact on our health and on the cost of our property, what it is costing us. Regarding the questions and concerns from the Blount County Memorandum, Section 7.4, the wireless telecommunication towers and antennas, is that this proposed cellular tower conflicts with the goal of this section. Number 1, protect residential areas and land from potential adverse impacts of towers and antennas. The cellular tower will adversely impact our property value and possibly our health. Number 2 is encourage the location of a tower in a non-residential area. The tower is adjacent to our property, as I stated, and I'll show you photographs. In the photographs of the antenna location, the Google maps are outdated, although they're dated March of 2018. If they were accurate, they would show the house under construction since January. Minimize the number of towers throughout the county. is item number 3, and this tower would be the 5th one within a 3-mile radius in Townsend. Encourage the joint use of new and existing towers. We raised the question again about the AT&T tower or some of the other ones, adding on the antenna array. Encourage the use of towers and antenna to configure them in any way that minimizes adverse visual impact. There's no way that you can do anything to that 200-foot tower to hide it. You know, not a tree big enough and you can put all the limbs on it you want and it's still going to be a tower. In the general provisions and requirements of public notice, I already mentioned that. We were not given any information. I've talked to a couple of my other neighbors, and I'm glad to meet you as a neighbor. But some of my other neighbors up there had no information given to them either. The site plan photos are not correct. They don't show the adjacent land use, our home. And I told you the March 2018 photos are inaccurate. In the special exceptions, the board may deny the applicant for special exceptions if it finds and concludes, based on the information submitted in the application or provided at the hearing, that one or more of the following conditions will hold. Construction or establishment of the special exception will materially endanger public health or safety, and there is a strong association being found between radiation transmitted from such cellular antennas and the health of residents living close to them. And I state again, we're only about 500 feet line of sight from the array. Construction or establishment of the special exception will substantially injure the value of adjoining or adjacent properties. And the proposed cellular tower is directly within the line of sight of our home. The top of the tower is at eye level. Actually, it's a little bit above eye level, and there's no way it can be disguised or hidden from our view. So based on these reasons, we request the planning board reject this proposal, this variance. And permission to address, bring my photos up. Pardon?
There's like is there 3 or 4 cabins there? 2 cabins?
There's one land on this, farm,
Okay, so there's three structures. But,
two structures on the property. One is there, and others are
okay, and the sign was there at his driveway, and the driveway goes in and makes a 90-degree turn to the left. Where is your house from there?
I will show you.
Oh, okay.
It goes up, it plateaus, and it goes up again. He's on the second piece back here.
Okay. Sure. Okay. Is his house in line with that driveway?
This is the sign we did. We never saw.
Well, that sign's been up for. Okay, 'cause it was up when I was there.
It's still up.
Well, it's up there with the corners.
Yeah. That's where he has to put the sign. He has to put the sign.
Why wouldn't the adjacent homeowners or property owners notify?
I'm not sure. You'll have to address that.
That's the house.
As of today?
Yes.
Yeah, I couldn't see that from the road.
No, you can't. Okay, this is the construction that was in February. Okay, this is a view from our house. This is probably a month ago. But the tower is going right here. There's the AT&T tower.
That's the tree tower over to the right.
Right, that's the AT&T, or the tree tower. Yeah. So this is the flat part right here that they're putting, they want to put
Okay.
the tower. It would come right here and come up.
Okay.
Okay, and I say it's 200 feet, and I took a little phone nap, And so our house is like 90 feet above here,
Okay,
which means I have another 110 feet above the street.
okay. All right, thank you. You guys want to see these?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just real quick. To the gentleman's point on 9, so that would be C9, public notice. Staff did make an error on public notice. We did the public notice as required by the normal special exception process. I did not do the additional 1,000-foot mailing, so I would actually ask the chairman at this point to table this and let us re-notify.
What page are you on top?
In the staff report 4, B9, that's on page 4. Yes, 4 of 13, 9, public notice. This is an additional public notice requirement that's in this ordinance, that's not in any other place in zoning regulations. This was a staff error, and staff would ask the chairman to table it and let us re-advertise. The sign and the legal ad that we put in the paper satisfies the noticing requirements for a normal special exception. This is an additional thing that I missed. So I think we need to just stop and start over.
I agree with you.
And your name?
I'm the county attorney, Greg Garrett. Asked to come tonight for this meeting, and I agree that the notice is not given properly under the ordinance, and we need to give it proper and see to keep our action from being subject to being challenged.
Mr. Chairman, may I, just for the purpose of the record, I want to offer something to the gentleman here. I agree, we definitely have to defer this, and whatever your normal time is, let me know. I'll be happy to offer to do a balloon test or photos. We usually use a drone over the site to depict where the tower, as it relates to his view. Since we have to defer anyway, it takes usually 30 days to go through that process. I'll work with this gentleman to get a crew to come out and take that shot. That'll give everyone here an idea of exactly what the view is, where the tower is as it relates to his property.
And Mr. Hargis, if I may ask too, can you do a photo sim to show him
Yes.
what it would look like?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll be happy to. I may need
That-
additional time, but
Yeah.
we can certainly work out.
I think we're going to need it anyway.
Yes,
so.
sir.
This is our property. This is Mr. Corn, right about there is where the timber line is.
Put your finger on your mouth.
My house is right there. And this, we come right off our driveway, goes this way. Okay, up to the house. That's why we don't see what's down on Corn's Road. We only saw that because we were given some instructions to tour the area.
That's me.
Okay, we have a motion to table. Do I hear a second? Have a second to table. Right. Hold on. Do you have any questions before we? We have a motion to table and a second. Any other questions before we? Okay, roll call. Yes, being table.
Yep.
Till next month.
No, not necessarily. We're going to await some additional information. That way we can bring it back once. So I will work with the applicant, figure out which meeting works for them, and then I will notice appropriately for that meeting. And my apologies to the board and to everyone here.
Larry,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Stanley, Brian.
Yes. Okay, motion passes to table.
Thank you.
So, then it will be, Thomas, up to you to schedule.
Yes.
whenever we-
Yes, sir. And then you can take it off the table at that time and rehear it.
Okay. All right. Did you want to say something?
Yep.
We're about to get ready to adjourn. So it needs to be.
Mr. Chairman, my name's Larry Perry, live at 11464 Saga Lane, and I'm here, we represent the county as your consultant for this operation for any towers that come in here and have for almost 15 years. I served on the FCC's advisory committee, still do with the State Department today on applications such as this. And without going into any kind of detail, let me explain a couple of things that will help the people here understand where they are, where you're coming from. Number one, the discussion was raised about the health issues. That can't be discussed at this particular meeting. The FCC has taken the authority, the federal government has taken authority away from all local government and local counties as far as any kind of radiation or any kind of health hazard. We have no authority to discuss that at this particular kind of meeting. The second thing is, for your information, there are 5 carriers in this area right now, in the Blount County area. The FCC has authorized 12 in this part of the country. Only 5 of them have set up shop, so to speak. You're going to see over the next 3 to 4 years a plethora of applications for towers. Not this tall, but they're going to be short towers, like the gentleman was saying a while ago from Verizon. For example, in Knoxville, each square mile of Knoxville is going to have 200 towers. 200 towers per square mile. Now they're short, they're on telephone poles, because the distance is only going to be a football field of coverage, about like a block, about like he said. You're not going to have that quite that quick in Townsend. It's coming, and by 2020 it will be here, but you won't have to have that many towers. But I'm just telling you right now to be anticipating what you're going to be seeing downstream. Now, the question that came up, that someone was asking a while ago about the coverage of the tree tower. Why can't we just make more stuff on that? The problem you have there is each location, each tower location, each substructure location is limited as to how much coverage it can cover, because of frequency, because of the power, because of different things that are impact that. If you'll just figure, if you'll take a square mile.
Attorney for the county, you've tabled this subject, and it's not proper to hear further discussion on that issue at this time.
I'm just explaining what's going to happen downstream.
But it's not proper. You'll need to do it at the next meeting. They have to make a decision based on what is in the record, and you're trying to put things in the record when the motion has been tabled, and it's just not proper to do that. And so we don't need to talk about this subject anymore. You need to move on to the next item on the agenda, or we're going to be subject to a challenge at some point in time if we don't follow proper procedures. So that's all I'm telling you as the attorney for the county and for this board.
We're just trying to educate them, Mr. Curran.
Okay.
If you don't want to hear it, that's fine, but I'm just trying to help you guys out a little, because you can see what's coming downstream.
I think I'll take the advice of an attorney. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.